DOJ says that the Labor Department is canceling $25 million in wasteful DEI grants for $15 million in savings. The cuts include $265,000 for Queens College to research why BIPOC teens read Japanese comics, $400,000 for the University of Tennessee to study LGBTQ plus library users' metadata, almost $7 million for the California State Library to enhance equitable library programs, and $1.5 million for the Connecticut State Library system to, quote, integrate social justice DEI into their daily work. President Trump addressing reports that Elon Musk will leave his White House role soon, saying he wants him to stay in the administration as long as possible. Joining me now, former White House Chief Information Officer and Fortalice CEO, Teresa Payton. Teresa, good morning.
Good morning.
So what do you make of these things, these revelations we continue to see from Elon Musk and from DOJ about the waste that the government has been basically, the waste and fraud that he's been uncovering?
Cheryl, obviously there's still more great work to be done. And, some of these programs, it is tough. This hits people personally. And I know these are oftentimes passionate topics for many people, but we're 36 trillion in the red. And so this forces hard choices. I'm a small business owner. I have to manage budgets under pressure. And sometimes you have to trim what you love to save what you really need.
So how long do you think that Musk should stay on? I mean, Elon before had said that, he would work there through May. I mean, he does have other things to do, SpaceX and Tesla, running X. But at the same time, Donald Trump has said he can, wants to stick around, he can.
Yeah, what's really incredible about what Musk is doing is, sleeping around the clock in the buildings, trying to get this work done while he's running companies. But he is under a designation which has the Trump administration up against the clock. He is a special government employee, which allows him certain types of access. And a lot of people may not realize this. You can only, within a 365 consecutive day time period, work 130 days. They don't all have to be consecutive, but within that 365 days, that is the limit to be categorized as an SGE, a special government employee. So they're up against the clock, probably coming up somewhere around the 90 days. It doesn't mean he couldn't stay on as an advisor or some other different type of role. They'll just have to change his designation.
So Elon Musk and the DOJ team have been explaining their work on Social Security fraud. In particular, they held this Wisconsin town hall. It made a lot of headlines. Watch this.
We started at the top of the system, mapping the whole system of Social Security to understand where all the fraud was. In 21, you see 270,000 people, goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
40% of the calls into Social Security were fraudulent, like meaning that it was someone trying to get a Social Security payment that was going to a senior to go to instead to go to a fraud ring. DOJ will make sure you get your Social Security. DOJ will make sure you get your Medicaid. There will be no cuts to legitimate payments whatsoever.
And Teresa, you say that the phone system at the Social Security Administration is a relic.
It is. And, as someone who managed call centers and financial services and at the White House, when somebody flags 40% of calls as fraud, that isn't a glitch. It's definitely a sign and a signal for all of us. This is essentially a fraud breach. And when you have a fraud breach this large, you don't wait for all the forensics and all the final proof. You actually start locking things down. So this is a phone system. Obviously we need to move into sort of the modern age. You can do things over the phone for seniors who may have a challenge getting to a Social Security office to conduct whatever business they need to conduct with the Social Security. There is a way to modernize the phone system and make fraud a smaller problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to move on to TikTok with you because they're facing this deadline tomorrow to find a U.S. buyer or face a ban. So President Trump sounded really optimistic about securing a deal for this. Watch.
What's the update on the deal negotiations?
We're very close to a deal with a very good developer for TikTok.
You said that the Chinese might be willing to agree to approve that sale in exchange for tariff relief. Is that something that you've floated to them or you've heard to them?
I'm just using that as an example. Okay. Let's say we had a problem with TikTok, and let's say China wasn't going to approve. We could use tariffs in order to get it approved. You know, you give them something in return.
You know, it's interesting, the timing of those comments. This was on Air Force One last night, but then this morning, we've all woken up to China putting on retaliatory tariffs on the United States. It's why the markets are selling off. They're saying 34%. So the timing of this is interesting, considering the TikTok deadline tomorrow, because, you know, really, if you think about it, if there is going to be a sale of TikTok or an ownership transfer, the Chinese government has to approve that.
They do, and deadlines sharpen focus, and these tariffs are not a theory using tariffs to get to a TikTok deal as well as other deals for the American people. This is all about economics, and I want to remind everybody, because people may think, well, TikTok, maybe you're not on that platform, maybe you wonder what's the big deal. There's a small business and creator economy in the United States that depends on TikTok. It is estimated to be $15 billion in revenue that small businesses and creators in the United States count on TikTok for their livelihood. There really is no rival platform to take their place. So I think we've got an incredible opportunity here with China on multiple issues, including TikTok, to use tariffs as basically part of the deal.
I've got Chris on set. Chris, what do you make of that? Deadlines can be extended. I do want to add.
Yeah. We've got to make sure that this deal actually does what needs to get done in terms of forcing. The big issue is ByteDance, that owns TikTok, doesn't want to sell their algorithm. And that's probably a sign that they don't want us to see what's in it. And so I appreciate that there are some small business owners and creators that do make their money through TikTok, and I know that this is of deep concern to them. But all that has to happen is that ByteDance sells the entire system, the app, and the algorithm, and those creators will be able to do it on an American platform. But until that happens, I have real concerns. You know, as a younger person, I work with the college Republicans. We are watching people get their brains melted by this algorithm, and they're believing whatever the Chinese government wants them to believe, because the idea that ByteDance is somehow separate from the Chinese government is laughable. And so until we're able to actually address how much they're polluting the minds of young people, you know, we really have a problem on our hands, and we've got to do something about it.
Teresa, final word, your reaction to that?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a way to, you know, there's been a lot of work done with Oracle to separate Americans' data onto the Oracle platform for TikTok USA. And I agree, we need more governance around the TikTok algorithm, keeping it cool, hip, and fun, while at the same time protecting America's privacy, their mental health and mental wellness, and their security.
All right, Teresa Payton, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.